Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm really excited to bring to you a video regarding how I work with my inner maiden as well as the maiden archetype. In honor of this video, I am wearing pink because I associate pink with the maiden archetype. And I'm also really happy to be back in MySpace, filming in MySpace at least. So I'm excited to be sharing this video with you back in my regular space. I wanted to have this video ready for you last week, but I ran out of time, as is usually the case for us mothers. So I just have a cup of chamomile tea here and I want to get started. So how I work with the maiden archetype, it sort of started off as inner child work and then it moved on to maiden, really specifically working with my personal inner maiden. And I understand some people in this community, they refer to the maiden archetype as the inner child and that they are one and the same. And that is a theme that came up early in my inner maiden journey. However, I personally see my own inner maiden a little bit older. I kind of see her between, I'd say like late teens, early 20s. And that's just how she comes across to me. You will see me looking down throughout this video. I'm just referencing some notes. I have a terrible memory, so most of the time I have to reference notes. So this video is, of course, my own experience. It's my personal gnosis, if you will. So your experience it might look different unless you have a similar life story, similar themes. What I've personally noticed with working with this archetype, this wonderful archetype, is it's very refreshing. I find that the qualities that the maiden brings to the forefront, its playfulness, like a healthy curiosity, excitement, lust, passion, a real sense of adventure as well. She really brings those qualities to the forefront of your life, and it's really refreshing to explore those qualities again in my life. Personally, my relationship with the maiden archetype, it has a lot to do with exploring the theme of self-expression. I use a lot of makeup to really create that relationship and to express myself. A lot of the color pink as well, just because, as I've already mentioned, I align the color pink with the maiden archetype and a lot of the qualities that I also brought up earlier in this video. Like a lot of pink candles. This is also my self-care candle. Decks. I have quite a few decks that I'm exploring right now on this journey. Before I get into the current formula that I like to work with my inner maiden, I want to go over some of the decks. So the main deck that I've really been enjoying working with my inner maiden is the Tarot of the Hidden Realms. This deck, as I've already mentioned on the channel, it aligns itself very well with the qualities of the maiden archetype. It has this beautiful, well, the artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. Of course, Julia Jeffries is an incredible artist, but it has a lot of those qualities that I brought up earlier. It has the curiosity, the playfulness, the passion. This deck wants to talk about the present moment. It wants to talk about life, passion. It has a lot of maiden young figures in it, both boys and girls. A lot of youthful figures. There's also some animals depicted as well. It also has a lot of spring energy, and the Maiden is associated with the spring. So it's just a wonderful deck. I'm really enjoying receiving messages from the Maiden archetype, my own Inner-Maiden, of course, with this deck. And I'm also I'm enjoying the artwork. This is one of the most beautiful cards. This is one of the most beautiful depictions of the Three of Swords I've ever seen in my lifetime. And it aligns itself so well with the Maiden archetype. So, as well as butterflies too. So, absolutely love this deck. Couldn't recommend it enough. Next up, I hadn't really felt drawn to working with this deck until recently with this, with the Inner-Maiden, with the Maiden archetype. I think it's called A Deck for Wonder Walking. I backed this on Kickstarter. And I think I paid extra to get the journal. I love using the journal as like a companion guidebook. And I think this deck is wonderful for the deep thinkers, the heavy thinkers. It's meant for you to draw a card and then go on a walk. And then the card kind of gives you something to think about as you're walking. It gives you things to look out for. It's an incredibly profound deck. I find this deck very deep. And it's a beautiful deck. It's watercolor imagery. If it would, trying to get my camera to focus. Come on. There we go. And it's beautiful. And it has this sense of wonder that the Maiden archetype has, that sense of adventure, wonder, excitement, curiosity too, with respects to exploring your surroundings and your environment. It definitely has those qualities, and it brings them to the forefront as well. I like to pull a card. Last week I was pulling one card from this deck as well as the Tarot of the Hidden Realms, and I found that the two decks worked really well together. I like the colors. They're really vivid or they're dark, depending on what card you pull. And like I said, the guidebook, or it's a journal, but I'm using it as a guidebook. It comes with interpretations, realm symbolism, so it even comes with journal prompts. It's excellent, and I love working with this journal. Also beautiful imagery. It's a very, the quality is just excellent. It's gilded, it's like gold gilded. It comes with, I think, 3 or 4 ribbons. So you can bookmark a page. It's hardcover. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautifulest books I have. And I couldn't talk more about it. I love working with the journal and the deck together. And I think that the energy of the deck and its qualities align itself very well to the Maiden archetype. To those qualities that I mentioned as well. So if you have this deck and you're looking for something to work with the Maiden archetype or your own Inner-Maiden, I would give this one a go. I could even see you working with this with your inner child as well. So that is A Deck for Wonder Walking. So the 2 newest decks to my collection, I'm going to save those for last, but another deck that I've been really enjoying working with on this journey is the Wisdom of the Wild Things. It is, I think it's published by US Games. It's a great quality deck. The cardstock, it's very similar to another US Games deck that I have. It's very similar to this one, the Talisman Oracle. So it has a shiny, kind of wet look to it, as Racine over at Owl Moon 513 would put. I just love the way she describes her decks, but it does have this very shiny, laminated look to it and feel. The little characters on the cards are a little spooky. Definitely something I could see a child making up in their head. It has this wonderful sense of imagination. It really aligns with the inner child and even the maiden archetype well because of that sense of imagination. It has this sense of wonder as well. It has this innocence to it as well that I really appreciate. I can feel it throughout the deck. It's just embedded within the deck's energy. It's a very kind and compassionate deck as well. I like to pull a card after a shadow work session because I find this deck incredibly compassionate and understanding. If you're going through a really hard time, this deck is like a warm hug. It's so kind, and it can help you be kind to yourself as well if that's something that you struggle with, like a lot of us do. I'll show you the backs. They're really cute. There's also a sense of like the monsters throughout the deck. There's a sense of sometimes, oh my God, it's on the tip of my tongue. What's the expression? Sometimes it's not as it appears, that sometimes the monster in the story is actually the good guy. And a lot of these monstrous figures in the cards are actually quite kind. But yeah, I think that this deck has that childlike innocence, that curiosity, that sense of wonder, like the kindness too. There's this wonderful kindness and compassion and understanding that the deck provides, and it's embedded in its energy that I just really appreciate. And I've been using this deck as well on my journey with my personal Inner-Maidan. So I'm gonna share with you the last two decks that I've been really enjoying and connecting with. They are newer to my collection. So the Laputan Oracle, which I like to use to receive a message, a personal message from my Inner-Maidan. Something to explore. There's nudity in this deck, by the way, but it is something to explore in shadow work. Typically, I'll pull one card and then I will pull surrounding cards. This deck it's sexy, it's sensual, it's playful, it's passionate. It has that maiden energy of you're new to your sexuality and your sensuality, you're learning. This might be your first experience with love. You're really learning who you are and just learning to express yourself for the first time as well in new ways. but it is a beautiful, beautiful deck. A lot of blues and purples too, which I absolutely love. Purple's my favorite color, so I couldn't love a deck more just because of that. Lots of purples. Love it. Love it. Last new deck that I wanted to show you is the Magical Botanical Oracle. So I am having such an interesting connection with this deck. I love this deck so far. It's very accurate. It's very powerful. This deck is a gift. It really is. It's really good at targeting the heart of the matter. I love the imagery. It's mostly black and white imagery. There are some cards with pops of color, but it's rare. There aren't too many cards like that in the deck. It's mostly black and white. And it looks like ink drawings. Very sexy, very sensual deck. Very powerful, potent. And I like to get a bigger picture. I like to use it in shadow work as well. I'll use this as a companion to the Laputan Oracle or whatever deck I'm using. Usually it's the Laputan Oracle, or it'll be the Tarot of the Hidden Realms to get like a picture of what my inner maiden wants to talk about. And then the Magical Botanical Oracle to really get a bigger picture or even a supporting message, just to have more clarity around the situation, especially if it's shadow work. The guidebook is phenomenal. There is so much in the guidebook. There's so much information. There is your planetary and elemental associations. You'll get the Latin name for the flower or herb. There's a magical meaning, plant, spirit, medicine, divination meaning, as well as a reverse divination meaning. And then there's an affirmation. So I find that the magical and divination meanings can be used for journaling to create, oh my gosh, what's it called? To create tarot, like a journal prompt or a tarot spread. To get further information. Sometimes it can just get you thinking, get the gears going in your head to kind of get a better idea of what your inner maiden wants to talk to you about with shadow work. I did forget to mention that I am doing shadow work with my inner maiden, with all around the theme of self-expression. There are some other decks that I feel are worth mentioning. The Queen Mab or Queen Maeve Oracle I use quite a significant amount as well. There's a lot of maiden-like figures throughout that deck. I've spoken a lot about it on my channel, and I'll probably put it in a different maiden-themed video in the future as well as the Radiant Wilds Tarot. It's an incredible tarot deck for journeying, for shadow work as well. I find that the deck, because it has a lot of solar energy, which is connected to the consciousness, I find that deck so easy to read. It just gets straight to the point and it doesn't hold back. It's not like, it's like the opposite energy of my Wild Unknown. Wild Unknown, I connect more with the subconscious. And it's as equally powerful, but in a different way. I find like the Radiant Wilds, it's just easier to read. It doesn't really hold back. You don't really have to sit with it. You'll get the message right away. So now I want to speak about the current recipe or formula that I'm working with. I like to use my Wild Unknown archetypes, and lately I've been really enjoying using this deck to really focus in on the energy that my Inner-Maiden, like what she really wants to communicate, to get to the heart of the matter. So I like to work in 3s or 4s. So what I liked to do is I'll pull a card. It'll be 1 card, and I think I went up to 4. And then I just, I was trying to do tarot prompts to just sort of focus the energy of the messages. So I pulled personally the Vow, which can be used to explore how your childhood relationships with your parental guardians and family dynamics affects your current relationship with others and yourself. The Desert, which I want to do a completely separate video on the Desert archetype because it's insanely powerful. But it involves exploring current limitations and restrictions, especially self-imposed, that started with your childhood experiences. Next, I have the Womb. Explore your current relationships to femininity and or womanhood and its connection to your maternal figure, such as how women should behave, was just an example that came into my head. And then finally, I have the Thread, which I am struggling with this archetype. Feel free to leave your comments on how you like to work with this personal archetype. Sorry, how you like to work with this archetype personally. So how this came to me, it's either to release or surrender to difficult experiences, exploring fractured aspects of the maiden, aspects of ourselves that we reject and or find repulsive. So I figured it had something to do with release because it felt like it had something to do with release, at least energetically. However, when I pulled from my 3 Black Moons Oracle and my Witch's Tarot by Burning Paper Hearts. And I was basically told to surrender to the experience, to let it transform me, which is it's a release to a certain extent because I'm no longer fighting against the energy. So I just found that kind of interesting to work with, but that's just my current formula on how I like to work with this archetype and with my own personal Inner-Maiden, and how I couldn't talk more about this deck, the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. Such a powerful deck. If you have this in your arsenal, just use it for, I would recommend using it for this archetype or any archetype really. It's very handy. It's very effective at really narrowing in energies, getting more information, creating structures or formulas, recipes, if you will, identifying symbolism or representations. I just find this deck it's so powerful, incredibly powerful. One of the most powerful decks that I own. So I apologize if this video was rambly. I feel like it was sort of all over the place. I'm still unpacking this archetype. I'm still enjoying the experience. Some of the most passionate, lusty, creative, inspired energy I've ever felt. It's interesting to reconnect with my Inner-Maiden. And exploring that relationship. I did forget to mention there will be some journal prompts or a tarot spread in the description box below. It's up to you how you want to work with that. But I am putting it out there. It's in the description box. And really, I would just recommend creating that relationship, exploring that relationship, exploring that energy, really figuring out who your Inner-Maiden is, how she looks to you, how you perceive her, how she wishes to express herself to you, how she communicates to you, what she communicates to you, so on and so forth. If you do use a tarot spread or journal prompts, however you want to work with that, I just ask that you credit me on any social media that you post it to. You can find me on social media. I put the links in the description box, by the way. I probably don't really, I don't mention that. I'm not good at this YouTube stuff, but thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.